Coming up this week on Meeting Minds, I have a fabulous event professional who's going to tell us all about how you tailor your event to your audience, what they're going to want to hear, what they're not going to really want to hear either. You're not going to want to miss this week's episode of Meeting Minds.
This is Meeting Minds with Charles Ide. Join Charles and his co-host Paige as they chat with leaders in today's events world on how you can take your events to the next level. Broadcasting from the IDECOM studios in Minneapolis, Minnesota, this is Meeting Minds with Charles Ide.
Welcome back to Meeting Minds, everyone. I am so excited for another episode here out of the IDECOM studios in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We are finally hitting spring here, which for those of you that know anything about Minnesota, we have about 11 months of winter and 1 month of summer. No, luckily we don't have that. Otherwise, no one would live here. But we have a really, really long chunk of winter. We just had our recent 80, 90 degree weather. And I believe Miss Storey Pryor is going to be channeling her inner summer energy from where she's calling in from and sharing all of her expertise on her years of event experience. She was formerly the Senior Director of Global Events at Isagenix and now an independent event planning consultant. Storey, thank you for being here.
Awesome. Well, Paige, thank you so much for having me. And as you were just talking about your guys' endless winter, we have an endless summer where I'm at. I'm in a very chilly Phoenix, Arizona, where I think today we're going to get like 110, 120 degrees already.
You can't even say chilly. Please don't. No, I'm just going to say, you please channel all of it. I will take all of it.
We'll throw some at you. We'll throw some sunshine at you guys. But yeah, thanks so much for having me. My goodness, I just live and breathe events. And I kind of like to say that I grew up with planning events. I sometimes like to say that I even planned my own baby shower in my mom's belly, because when I was born, I just love bringing people together. And that's what events do is we just bring people together. And I don't think there's a greater thing on the planet than when we can all come together and celebrate something. And so that is all about events. And that is kind of what drove me to my passion and how I got into events. So I hope with my time today, I can kind of give you some just some information about how I navigated my path through events. And then currently, in our state of our pandemic, how we've all had to kind of think creatively and get outside the box and still connect with our audience. So I guess when I was going through high school, I was always, the social butterfly. I was always, getting all my friends together. And when I went to college, I remember looking for a hospitality industry. And at that time, the college I chose didn't have anything in a hospitality capacity. But I figured out that I could get a degree in social events through joining a sorority and being a social chair. So I went to college, and I was the social chair of my sorority. It was my freshman year, and at that time you couldn't be a social chair in your freshman year. But I remember I went to the Panhellenic board of the global chapter and asked to be the social chair because of how passionate I was about events and throwing events and bringing people together. So yeah, my parents like to say that they paid my way through college through my sorority, but that's kind of where I got into events. I made that kind of my number one thing to do. And it was my senior year at college. I came out to Arizona on spring break with some girlfriends. And I remember just being around the atmosphere here in the desert. I'm originally from Kansas City.
I was going to say, I thought I heard a little Southern twang in there.
Yeah. Well, and then I'm also a big sports fan. So I've got my Kansas City Chiefs and my Kansas City Royals. So I'm a big sports fan. So I knew I wanted to go into sports and events and meetings and bringing people together. But when I came out to Arizona on spring break, I just was like, okay, I'm moving to Arizona to plan events. And at that time, they were opening up a brand new facility where the Arizona Cardinals were playing. And so I was part of the team, the sales, marketing, and events team that opened up the new stadium, which we had the Super Bowl that year. Actually, my first day at my job was a Rolling Stones concert. So kind of getting thrown into knowing very little about events to, oh my goodness, I'm right here helping put together a Rolling Stones concert. So that was kind of, trial by fire. And I was with the stadium for 4 years, been part of some incredible events that were hosted at that stadium. And after the Super Bowl, I was like, okay, what's next? You're, as an event planner, you're always kind of looking for the next best event, or how can you get, because you're only as good as your last event. So I got approached to work for an event production company. So I have so much appreciation for the behind the scenes of an event and the planning that goes into it, because to plan these large scale events that we do, or small, it doesn't matter the audience size, there's so much planning and preparation that goes into events. And I think it's such an art. So from behind the scenes of production, lighting, staging, entertainment, decor, the way that you're communicating with your audience, there's so much beauty that goes into planning events. And so I was part of an event production company that I spent quite a bit of time with, and I ended up getting a client, Isagenix, as you had mentioned. I got Isagenix because they were just right down the street from me here in Arizona, and I remember looking up their events and seeing that they had a lot of really fun events. So for 4 months, I was kind of stalking. I will say that lightly.
I know how it goes. I'm in the same boat you must have been in at your previous production company, where you see those big events and you're like, I want to be a part of that.
Yes, absolutely. I saw one of their event recap videos on YouTube, and I was like, I don't really know much about this company, but I knew I wanted to be part of what they were doing. So yeah, for 4 months, I was stalking them like crazy, sending, media kits, dropping by the office, all the things that, sometimes as vendors or end clients, were like, oh my goodness, stop soliciting, but, tactfully trying to get my way in the door as much as possible. But I ended up sending these giant life-size boxes to the founders of the company and their executive team. Their biggest event was called Celebration. So I filled these boxes with party hats, balloons, confetti, streamers. Once they opened up the box, I said, hey, let me help you celebrate Celebration. So I ended up getting a call back, and kind of the rest is history. I got to do their first event, Celebration, and then, for 4 years, I was the executive producer for all of their events from a vendor perspective. So I was living and breathing at the office of Isagenix, but I also was able to have some other clients doing event production, because again, I can't say it enough. I really love how events come together. So yeah, getting Isagenix as a client, and then after 4 years, they brought me in to be their in-house director of events, and I got to be part of a team. There were 8 people on my events team when we started, and then we grew to 24 people on the events team, because we went from 12 events to over 100 events a year, and then in 16 different countries. So it was a wonderful, I was able to travel and do some incredible things. And throughout those experiences, you just really, you really learn just the art of knowing your audience, knowing your location, knowing the timing of events too. There's a lot of strategy, concept planning that goes into planning 100 events a year, and really making sure that each one of those has a lot of takeaways and they're impactful, because when you have that many events, it's taking up people's time, it's taking up their money to get there. So every single event we would really tailor and craft so that it was speaking really true to the audience.
How did you dive into those different segmented audience pieces then? Because I know a little bit about Isagenix and a lot of those different direct sales companies, and they have such a huge range of audiences. How did you even start to figure out what was beneficial and not as so much to those specific event needs?
Yeah. Well, great question. And especially now, because I am working with other direct selling companies and consulting on their event strategies. In direct selling, and as we're seeing in our world, we are all community based. Like, we love to be with each other. And I know this pandemic has kind of thrown all of us through a loop, and we're, kind of relearning what community and being together looks like again. But in the direct selling space and with any event, events drive sales, events drive your brand experience, events drive culture. And so for every single event that we'd have, we would want to dissect it as though we were the attendee. So a lot of our site visits and currently what I'm doing is on a site visit, you kind of have to put on the lens cap of if you were the attendee. So what happens when you land at the airport is there's signage that's going to be out greeting you that, you can get creative and having signage in a airport experience. Then when you're arriving to the hotel or arriving to registration, what are those first touch points? Is it a welcome letter? Is it custom key cards? Is it a signature cocktail that you can give right when attendees are arriving? And then, when they arrive to their room, what are some touch points that you can have in the room? Maybe it's a handwritten card. We're so thankful that you're here to celebrate this weekend with us. All of the touch points, because at the end of the day, it's all in how you make the attendees feel. One of my favorite touch points, we did an incentive trip to London, and 14 people from the United States. We had an all expense paid over to London. And at that time, the Big Ben clock was under construction. So there was scaffolding over the clock. Obviously, you can't see anything when it's under construction. But what we were able to do is we bought life-size Big Ben clocks that we put next to the bedside. And we had a picture frame of their family. We found pictures of their family and put a picture frame of their family right next to the Big Ben clock. And we programmed the time of the Big Ben clock to wherever they were from. So a couple was from Florida. We had programmed the Big Ben clock to be from Florida. And then with a picture frame of their family right next to it saying, hey, anytime that you're missing home, this is the time that you can call and be together and FaceTime with your family. So, it's
so creative.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is I mean, my goodness, I live and breathe for the detail. I'm a devil in detail. So it kind of can get a little compulsive at times, but some of the greatest experience I know, even as a meeting planner, when we go to events and we get a room drop that's custom, to our experience there, or, the receptions are just really tailored to the audience. It's just a beautiful thing when you can really customize and personalize that person's experience.
It makes the whole experience feel like it's meant to be for you. You're a part of the event. It's not just like you're a bystander, and you're not just on another vacation. You're on something that's truly curated and tailored for you.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and, just recently for another event, because as we're coming out of this pandemic environment and we're having to relearn what, talking to people is like and being social again and direct selling events, it's all about, I mean, if you've seen them, we're all about hugging, clapping, high energy events.
Those events are the most high energy I've ever experienced. It's like a whole new level.
Yes, it's an event on steroids for sure. It's like we're all just being fed like just insane energy. But for this event, it was a smaller event, and we channeled the same thing. So for the first time ever, mothers, and that was our audience. Mothers are leaving home. They're leaving their families. They haven't left for over a year. They've been homeschooled. So we had picture frames of their family next to the bedside, just saying, thank you for leaving your family and being with our family this weekend. So, again, it's that little just extra thought, that little extra touch that just can go a long way. And then everyone's taking pictures of, oh my goodness, this company, really cares that we're here. So it's just a great way to really show them that, we want to bring everyone together and how can we, make them feel really good about being at the event.
So for our audience members out there who are still trying to figure out amazing touch points and ways that they can start to curate experiences directly for their audience, maybe in this virtual and hybrid environment for the next couple of years, where do you suggest they start?
Well, great question. And, I love that our world is getting back together. I mean, obviously all of us, and I know there's a lot of, mixed opinions of how many people should congregate, what should we do, staying virtual or hybrid. And in my past life, we did virtual events all the time. So I think the virtual aspect and component, you're able to reach so many more people. So I think virtual events, I don't think we'll ever go away from them. I think it's a beautiful thing. We're able to connect the world together in an experience. So I am such a huge proponent of virtual events, and I think they should stay, and we should all, kind of adapt those into the live events. But too, at the same time too, if you have to know the nature of the event and the audience. I know there's a lot of states right now that are still abiding by the CDC guidelines, and so staying 6 feet apart, wearing masks, and all of that is a great thing. But you have to look to see, could that hurt the culture of the event? Could that not be a positive experience? Because, if you're celebrating great successes of people, if you are wanting to, launch a new product and get everyone up off their chairs and getting them so excited, and they're not able to do that just because of, the situation they're in, then maybe just a judgment call on, keeping the event virtual until you can come back and really celebrate and really enjoy it in person. Because having that, live experience where you're not able to fully maximize the announcements or the launches, that may not hurt, that may hurt the culture versus help it. So that would be just something that, it's dependent on the brand and what the takeaways that you're wanting to get out of the audience. But two, also, I see so many companies, which is such an incredible thing, is sending these, watch binge kits where it's, it's all the essentials that you need. If you're going to sit down and listen to, some keynote speakers, how can you create a great environment for your attendees while they're at home? So, maybe you enter a giveaway where it's, everyone can earn a laptop, or you've got, little markers for the door saying, hey, keep quiet. Mom or dad is in, general session is in business, or, Zoom lights, and of course, providing a great platform too, where it's interactive. You're still able to chat. You're still able to be with the community, because again, events are bringing people together, and we want to get out. We want to talk. We want to be able to communicate. So having a great platform where you're able to connect with the speaker, a Q&A, attendees, I think is the true key to success for the virtual platforms.
I love that you hit on those fuel kits and those boxes and door knocker experience pieces, because we had a client of ours leverage that this summer, and then they were like, okay, well, how do we explain how we want our attendees to leverage the kit, utilize it? We feel like we're going to miss the mark if we don't address that piece of it, and we don't just want to write it and do an email. So they actually had our video team create a commercial video on how to open the box, and they opened each day with a different piece of the box, and brewing coffee with the coffee that was in it. And it just is so cool to me to see all these pieces of innovation come out of struggle, and to see how our team in the production media content world is being used to our fullest abilities to make this experience come to life.
Absolutely. I love that you guys did that. I think that's so beautiful, because you can get this box and you kind of, you don't know really how to do it, but social media is everything these days, and people are documenting their life, whether it doesn't matter if you're in network marketing or whatever you're doing. If you want to grow your network, if you want to, share with your community what you're doing, I think a beautiful example, like you said, is showing them how to, experience the event and through all the tangibles that you're going to give them. And it's great brand awareness too. So, providing a hat or a t-shirt or something that they're able to represent the brand or the product during the event, to really engage. I think those things, we're going to constantly be seeing more and more of that together.
It gets me thinking about a client of ours that has regional stores, and typically all of these attendees would have gathered in Texas and done the whole couple days of celebration. This fall, it's going to be more of a hybrid event, but for those store owners or leadership executives who have to be able to stay in their regions and manage their store and stay safe in their little bubble and pocket, it's how do you help incorporate those different regions and still make it really special and acknowledge that not everyone is going to be able to be in person?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And you can do that too by, by as you're talking, like changing the Zoom backgrounds. I think that to show their location, their live on location, different maybe things in the store. I think that that's an incredible thing because I know for another client, we were talking about doing road shows, but why would we need to go on a road show if it's just going to be a virtual event? But changing the backgrounds, or even if it's going to be more of an incentive trip where Mexico is the destination, having people wear sombreros or maracas, or playing music before the event, just things that get people in the culture, the spirit, all of those things. It's all the details that you can pull together to really create that great experience.
Yeah, I love that we're idea sharing right now, because my team just did an event for event professionals. It was Event 2.0 for anyone listening who heard anything about it on LinkedIn. And our MC spent every one of the sessions eating donuts because it was for event professionals. And I feel like almost every time when we're on site, you have a box of donuts and pastries, or at least on setup or teardown or something like that. So we're like, let's acknowledge it. Let's acknowledge that we're not all on site right now and we can't eat the donuts. And I just picture that being like, okay, if we have to do this again in a hybrid environment, why couldn't the in-person MC and the virtual event MC both be sharing different kind of donuts or something crazy like that? Yes. It's like, let's break down the professional wall and just get a little bit more real with the experiences.
Of course. Well, and I'm just such a student of our industry, and I know all of us that are listening that's why we're listening to this call, because just some great information is being shared by us, because we all live and breathe the same struggles. We all have, the only thing to eat is the donut, or, we're on our 50th cup of coffee because we've been, we're on 0 hours of sleep. So it's, I love that you say that. It's the behind the scenes. It's because truly all the magic happens behind the scenes. It's funny when, people think that they can walk into a room and there's just two screens that plop up and the chairs are just sitting there and, oh, well, you just hit a button to play a song. No, I mean, there's so much work that goes into calling a show, and all the lighting cues, all the sound cues, all the checks, making sure that whomever is coming to stage knows to introduce the next person. And I think that, having more and more of us sharing our best practices and things that we're up against. I was part of a group that actually brought together meeting and event planners of the Direct Selling Association, because, from choosing locations, room blocks, to transportation, when you're dealing with thousands of attendees, being able to just share, hey, this is a great location because they offer public transportation, or there's the cost, the price point for a hotel can fit anyone's budget, or hey, there's things for families to do if they bring their family. So I am a huge proponent of always sharing, always, just being open, and just because we're all in this event world together. One of my favorite things to say is event planners, I think Forbes has kept us in the top 5 hardest professions, or most stressful professions in the world. And I agree with that, because we always have to be quick on our feet, solution oriented, and we have to plan for the unplanned. So sorry to go off on a little tangent there, but
the tangents are the best part about this podcast. In all honesty, we give everyone an outline, we talk about it, and then we're like, but we like the tangents a little bit better than anything else. Oh my gosh, Storey, thank you so much for sharing all your expertise. I feel like as the industry continues to open, I would love to have you back on and continue to share your knowledge and what you're working on with your plethora of different contexts you're working with. As we have a couple more minutes here, what are your final thoughts for maybe hope as the industry is getting open again?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, just knowing your audience. And now with our world, everyone is putting their life on these digital platforms. We can find out about everyone through social media and through other channels, and the way that we're connecting is digitally. So as we come back and as we embrace being together again, getting to know your audience, and a lot of that can be done through pre-event surveys. Because I know I've been to a couple events where, they're asking the CDC questions. Have you been in contact with anyone? So those questions you have have to be asked regardless of what event. So, hey, tack on some questions about, where are you from? Where, what are some your top 3 values? If you could be on a trip anywhere in the world, where would you go? So get creative, get to know the audience, and a lot of that can be done digitally now. But I think that the success of the events is just going to be getting to know the audience down to a science. What are their values? Where are they spending their time? Where are they, spending their money? What kind of what other brands or thought leaders do they follow? I think there's just such an art to that. And then that way you can tailor and craft your event experience around the audience, because we all want these personal connections now, especially to get us out of our house, to get us back in enjoying being with one another. And so I think the more that you can really just tailor the event experience to the audience is just the key to success.
It's going to keep us going through the end of 2021 and into 2022 as everyone is seeking and craving innovation and ways to not only be together, but feel special in those event experiences. Maybe they go to so many less events and now they want to just feel that wow factor at the one they go to a year.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So it is that wow factor. It is, what can you do? When some of my past clients on a product launch, we had an entertainer come out and we had them sing a separate song just for that product. So we're going to have events, entertainment is usually always part of an event, but then how can you just turn it up a little bit, make a little bit more of a personalized custom experience so that they're like, okay, this is why we love events. We will never, ever be able to replace events either, or the in-person connection. I mean, as we say, virtual events are here to stay, which is a beautiful thing, and I will always support it. But we will never, ever, ever be able to replace the in-person experience. So now it's just, let's get creative. Let's make sure those event experiences are, leaving people. It's like, man, that was awesome. I can't, I want to do more of that. So
thank you so much for sharing all of your information. If any of our guests want to reach out and learn more about your strategies for connecting with audiences, tailoring their event, or even just learning more about having you as a consultant, how can they get a hold of you?
So yeah, my LinkedIn, Storey Pryor, if you type in, I'm right there on LinkedIn, storeypryor.com, my website, and then my Instagram as well. Storey Pryor is my handle. So yeah, it's STOREYPRYOR. My mom and dad added that E in there. So
it's okay. It's all about being unique in those wow factors. So thank you. Thank you all for listening to this week's episode of Meeting Minds. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe on Spotify or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Follow us on our Meeting Minds podcast Instagram. We always have bite-sized pieces of information from our great guests like Storey, and we'll always share her episode and everyone else's on LinkedIn. So make sure you go ahead and follow us on LinkedIn or any one of our co-hosts that are interviewing these amazing guests. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time on another episode of Meeting Minds.
Thank you for listening to Meeting Minds. Meeting Minds. Brought to you by IDCOM Event Production, changing the world one audience at a time. Follow IDCOM Creative and Meeting Minds podcast on Instagram. And check out meetingminds.org to find show notes for this episode, past episodes, and inspiration. As always, please subscribe, leave a review, and tune in next week for another episode of Meeting Minds.